this meeting that we were anticipating now not going to happen. Is it safe to say, while getting trade ironed out for Australia is a priority, does it even crack the top 10 for the US at the moment? And how does Australia move things forward?
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It was good that the president agreed to meet with the Prime Minister when they had the time, but it was unlikely there was going to be much movement on the tariffs anyway. We haven't seen any exemptions heretofore, so I don't think that was going to happen. The Aukus review was just announced, so there's nothing to discuss there really, and I think this can be put off in favor of some more pressing matters. Nobody's going to argue that the actions in the Middle East are more important than what's happening right now in Australia. So staying down at periscope depth is okay for Australia for now. Another opportunity will arise, possibly around the Quad leaders in India next month.
The US, well, Australia does run a trade surplus with the US. It's one of the few countries to do so, but the United States has expressed some unhappiness with some of Australia's biosecurity measures, particularly around beef. But is this something that Australia should compromise on, and can it compromise on it, considering the domestic political environment?
Well, you're exactly right, Paul. We've had a trade surplus with the United States since 1952, a huge one. It's one of the biggest in the world. I think we're number 3. So President Trump is quite happy about that since he just counts goods. The beef was negotiated in the Free Trade Agreement, which is just celebrating its 20th anniversary. So in 2005, there was mad cow disease in the United States, and American beef was excluded from import into Australia. That's eradicated now. So since 2019, American beef has been allowed to come into Australia. The problem is that cattle move freely over the border from Mexico and Canada. So unless the Americans can ensure that the beef was born and bred in the United States and hadn't come across a border, that's what's excluded from coming into Australia. And that's what President Trump has hooked onto, saying that Australia hasn't allowed one American Big Mac into the country. I don't think that at this point there's an easy way for America to exclude that cattle that crosses over the borders from other parts of the continent. So the Prime Minister has rightly said that he's going to stand firm on that biosecurity measure. But I think in the future, with AI and other technological methods, there should be a way for us to move forward and allow American beef in.
April, of course, the trade uncertainty is great right now globally, but we also have to contend with perhaps that slowdown of the Chinese economy as well. When it comes to your members, what's the biggest concern on the ground in Australia?
Of course, the Chinese economy is a big concern for all companies. We have American and Australian companies in AmCham, and while we only export about 4% of our total goods to the United States, the ripple effects of the tariff situation with China could have a big impact here in Australia, not only in the iron ore sector, but other sectors as well. And China's moves around limiting exports of the critical minerals needed in batteries will affect companies in Australia as well. Now, America is and has for a long time been the biggest investor in Australia, and America is the biggest destination for Australian capital. It's about $1.4 trillion in each direction. So that relationship will remain strong, and the private sector investment that we see between the countries, I expect to continue, along with the jobs that brings.
I just want to cycle back to the Aukus conversation. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been very much, well, nothing to see here. When he took office, he conducted a review. Now there's a new government in the US. He feels it's entirely reasonable the US does the same. But when we consider the size of the investment in US shipbuilding, how do you see this aligning, really, with a lot of Trump's policies? It does seem to tick a lot of boxes, and if Aukus were to be cancelled, what would replace it?
Shipbuilding is a big priority for President Trump. There's now a shipbuilding office inside the White House. There's somebody at the NSC who's in charge of shipbuilding. So he really wants to see us increase our shipbuilding capacity. We only produce about 1% of the ships in the world in the United States. Korea and Japan do about 33%, and China does the rest. So it's a big priority for President Trump. There's a great Australian company called Austal that operates in Alabama. They've built about 1/3 of the ships in the U.S. Navy. So that's a good relationship there. Up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, Vice Admiral Meade said that he was getting very positive signs from the American officials that everything was on track. They get the picture of what we're doing in Australia, and they're very happy with the progress that we've made. Certainly, Secretary Hegseth was very welcoming when Deputy Prime Minister Marles went to Washington, D.C. with a check for 800 million Australian dollars as a down payment on the $3 billion that we're investing in the subs uplift. I don't see any reason to expect that AUKUS would be canceled because it's very much in America's strategic and economic interests. So I agree that this is normal course of events. If the president actually wanted to cancel it, we'd probably see some sort of a big announcement, an executive order, not a departmental review by the number 3 at the Pentagon. So I'm hopeful that we'll move ahead.
All right, April Palmerlee, CEO of AmCham Australia. Thanks so much for joining us. We do have more on Australia ahead every Tuesday, 10:40 a.m. If you're watching in Sydney, that's 8:40 a.m. in Hong Kong. Plus, you can tune in to the Bloomberg Australia podcast, which delves into the biggest stories shaping the country's role in global business. You can find that on Apple, Spotify, or Bloomberg.com.